Did you hear about the company that's in Columbus that's going to blow away Intel in terms of the number of jobs they're bringing to our local economy? Well, if you want to know more about that and our local market update, stick around. We're going to talk about that next. Hey friends, Ryan Reynolds here with Keller Williams Consultants Realty with your July 2025 real estate market update. So what's going on here in July of 2025? Well, there's actually quite a bit happening, and it's actually some good news for our local economy as well as some good news for the real estate market. But before we get into that, we're going to go through the three things we normally talk about, which are inventory levels, interest rates for the 30-year fixed mortgages, and of course, how much is my house worth? What are prices doing here in Central Ohio? So let's go ahead and jump into those first. Now, the first statistic we want to go into is inventory. So as of today, July 10th, when I'm recording this, there's 4,127 single-family homes on the market. That compared to last year of 3,039 represents a 35.8% increase. So it seems like a huge jump, but when you look at the actual number in terms of the months of inventory, we're at 1.6 months of inventory. And as we've talked before, a balanced market is somewhere between 4 and 6 months of inventory, and a buyer's market is above 6 months. So we are clearly in seller's market territory, though it might not feel like the seller's market you're thinking of because we were in such an extreme seller's market for the past couple of years. Now we're just in a mild seller's market. In addition to inventory, we're going to give you a quick bonus stat. Average days on market right now is at 22 days. So despite all the national media you're hearing, it doesn't really apply here in Columbus. 22 days is what the average time on the market is in Greater Columbus. Last year it was 20 days, so it's extended 10%, 2 extra days. But in reality, that's less than 30 days, which represents a really strong market. So that again is the bonus statistic that points to the same thing that we mentioned before. Now, next thing we're going to jump into are mortgage interest rates. Now, this is the most not exciting section of our video today. The interest rates today were at 6.79 on the 30-year fixed mortgage according to Mortgage News Daily. Last month they were at 6.93, so we've come down about 0.2%. And since last year, it was at 6.99, so again, about 0.2% down. What that says is pretty consistent rates. Now, from a rate perspective, what we're hearing is that they're probably not going to lower them here in July. There is a lot of pressure from the president and from industry leaders to say that those rates should come down. However, Jerome Powell, who is the Federal Reserve chairman, has basically said they're not going to do anything until probably August. I'm sort of expecting them to come down a quarter in August. We'll see what happens. It will depend on what happens actually tomorrow, which is probably the day you're getting this, which is the CPI data will be coming out on July 11th. They're kind of expecting that data to be pretty tame. If it comes down more than they thought it would be, then they might actually be reinforcing that we would get August rate cuts. So anyway, that is the mortgage interest rates. So the last thing we're going to talk about is pricing, home pricing. What are they doing this year compared to what they were doing last year? And everybody seems to want to know this. And again, the national media seems to say that prices are coming down. You hear a lot of people talking about reduced prices on listings. And while that is true, here is the actual data. This year, right now, as of end of June, our average sale price in the Greater Columbus area was $413,000, and that is up 4.6% compared to last year. Now, I know last month it was up a little less than that. It was in the 3-point-something% and in one of the months it was only up 1-point-something%. So I wanted to kind of dig a little deeper and find out what are we doing year to date. We're a little more than halfway, or actually that was the halfway mark. And so year to date, the number is 4.3%. What that tells me, with the average over time being 4%, we're above average a little bit, about 10%, maybe 8% above average. And that also tells me that we're a much stronger economy here in Greater Columbus than there are in a lot of other areas. Just another quick bonus stat, I saw that unemployment for Central Ohio was at 3.5%, so really low unemployment here in Central Ohio. And now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the information you've been waiting for, which is the info about Arsenal One, which is the site that is being built by Anduril Industries adjacent to the Rickenbacker Airport. Now they're building a 500-acre site, and they are going to be building military-grade drones and autonomous air vehicles, and they're starting production in July of next year. So that's way ahead of what the Intel expectations were. Now the total investment is going to be around $900 million to $1 billion. So we're talking about a ton of money. And they're doing some of that financing through the Jobs Ohio grant. So if you have friends that work in the Jobs Ohio department, give them a big pat on the back. And there's also some additional incentives. But the real interesting part is what's going to happen to our economy. So they're going to be creating right around 4,000 direct jobs with average wages of $60 an hour. Now, $60 an hour is pretty decent. I think Intel is in around that same price or same level. So it'll be interesting to see how deep our local economy is in terms of the number of employees that they can get. My guess is they're going to have to bring in a bunch of people, which will also mean that we'll be bringing in a bunch of people who need houses. And so that will, again, drive up our pricing here in Central Ohio. The two locations obviously are pretty far apart. One's up in New Albany, maybe north of New Albany, and the other one's down close to the Rickenbacker Airport. And so being on opposite sides of Columbus, I think that's going to really affect all of Greater Columbus in raising the housing prices, and I think you all are going to see that. So the bottom line to all that is Arsenal One is the largest single job creation project in Ohio history, beating the Intel job creation project. And I would encourage that competition because the more jobs, the more better, I think. At least that's what I say. So that's this month's real estate market update for Greater Columbus and all of Central Ohio. If you have questions about your specific real estate situation, feel free to reach out and we'll set up a consultation to find out how we can help you to best take advantage of today's market. Again, Ryan Reynolds, Keller Williams Consultants Realty, and with the Ryan Reynolds team, as always, our new tagline is guiding you to the home that fits your life. Have a great month. We'll talk to you next month.